It's like a constant war, and you wanna settle that scar, but you're bruised and beaten, and you feel defeated. This goes out to the heaviest heart. Oh, to everyone who's hit their limit, it's not over yet, it's not over yet. And even when you think you're finished, it's not over yet, it's not over yet. Keep on fighting, out of the dark into the light. It's not over, hope is rising. Never give in, never give up, it's not over. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, whoa. Oh, game, set, match. Time to put it in your past. Oh, feel the winter leaving. It's redemption season. Long live the young and high. Here's to a brand new start. We're revived and breathing to live a life of freedom.
Welcome everyone to the webinars from ILAE. Yes, today we have another of the webinars regarding advocacy, and we are very excited to welcome Cassidy Megan. She is 22 years old and lives in Nova Scotia. She's the founder of Purple Day. She's also a professional model and she works in the film industry as a casting director and sound director. Um, she also loves archery, won medals as a competitive archer, and she loves being outdoors, traveling, spending time with her family and friends. She is an epilepsy advocate and she also has epilepsy. Our learning objectives for today are understanding and addressing the culturally appropriate aspects and consequences of the diagnosis of epilepsy, including stigma, and provide guidance on social issues, including school integration, work, legal, and related aspects. So, without further ado, I leave you with Cassidy Megan. Welcome, and we're happy to have you here.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me here and putting these on. These are amazing. I'm so honored to be here. Um, so my name's Cassidy Megan. I have epilepsy. I have generalized epilepsy with photosensitivity and myoclonic jerks. Um, I was diagnosed first when I was 7. Um, I hid it for about a year and a half due to the stigmas and the fear that came along with epilepsy. And after my local USA, no, our local, sorry, um, our local agency, the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes, came in to do a presentation. I seen how well my friends are being, so they helped give me the courage to speak out. The following year, after speaking out, I still didn't really know anyone who had epilepsy. I knew my aunt had something similar, but not exactly the same. So I was still feeling really alone, still kind of pretty scared. And it gave me the idea of Purple Day, which is um, Purple Day. And I want just the one day of the year where we could all come together, spread mass awareness of epilepsy, and help advocate for it and each other. Um, I 2 or 3 years back, I was re-diagnosed with what I have now, generalized epilepsy, myoclonic jerks, and photosensitivity. Um, so then it kind of became a whole new learning curve of that. Um, Purple Day is now in over 100 countries, every continent in the world, and it was even celebrated in outer space. It's sorry. Uh, Purple Day first started here in the Maritimes, and the following year, in 2009, our USA Global Partners, the Anita Kaufman Foundation, they joined forces to help take it across the states and international with us. 2012, it was passed to be an official law day in Canada, and 2018-19, it was celebrated in outer space for the first time, and all through NASA. Um, Growing up with epilepsy, I haven't really known a life without it, so it's, to me, I never let it stop me. I see what my friends do, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And I think that's a big thing we have to kind of instill in ourselves and in our minds, because epilepsy shouldn't stop us from living a normal life. And we may have to make adaptations. If you go swimming, I have to wear a life jacket when I go over my waist. Um, go for walks with friends, always do things with friends, which, I mean, that's not too bad. Um, some of the stigma that kind of came with epilepsy and comes to this day with it is people will tell you throughout your life you can't get a good job, you can't have a family, can't live on your own. Essentially, you're not smart enough to get into good colleges or good jobs. Some people in some places, they get shunned and hidden away, and sometimes if they're in a marriage, they can get sent back to their families, divorced. In early schools, people would mimic seizures as a joke or some form of bullying. When I first started talking about epilepsy, we got a few emails from some churches asking my parents to send me to them so they could rid me of my demons, which is, we thought was a joke at first, and then we realized that that's an actual practice and myth. So we educated them as best we could to let them know that epilepsy is a medical condition. It's not anything with possession or witchcraft or anything. But that's why advocacy is so important, and why we have to speak up, so we can teach people that we can live a normal life. We can get a job. We can go to school. We can, I know people who are doctors that have epilepsy. I know people who have kids, family that had epilepsy or have it still. People that are living on their own. I have a job. I went to university and I graduated. And people have to know that mimicking seizures isn't funny. It's not something that should be joked about, because it can really be severe sometimes in some cases. And I don't know how broad should I, like, people can pass from their epilepsy. I'm sure a lot of us, if not all of us, have heard of the most recent one, Kim and Boys, who passed from SUDEP. The sudden unexpected death of epilepsy patients is one of the major reasons why you shouldn't joke about it, because people do die from it sometimes. And if they don't, and sometimes it can cause brain damage, it can cause a lot of hurt in the family and to the individual. I'm rambling a bit, but this is why advocacy is so important, and it can be easy to do. Epilepsy affects everyone, the family, the friends, the individual, the peers. So advocacy, even if you don't know anyone, you can still help. When we speak up about epilepsy, we are being advocates. When we share our stories, we are being advocates. We are helping to increase the awareness and the education and making a difference. And it is us advocating and sharing our stories and experiences and knowledge that will make the change that we need. It is up to us, because we are our own biggest advocates that we could have. We know what we feel best. We know what we go through best. So by sharing our stories, it can help even a stranger help someone if they come past them having a seizure. If you learn seizure first aid, and you're just walking down the street anywheres, or you're in a store and someone can have a seizure, and you might be able to save their life. An example I use a lot is that if I'll be in a room speaking and say, how many of you guys know how to help someone if they're choking? Half the room raises their hand, if not more. I followed up with saying, how many of you in this room know how to help someone if you see them having a seizure? I think the most was 3 people that raised their hand. Epilepsy is the second most common neurological disorder next to migraines. It is so common, but with the stigma, it becomes almost a taboo topic. And with it being so common, you probably pass someone, 1 in 26 in the States, and 1 in 100 people in the world will have epilepsy. You might already know someone that has it, and they just don't talk about it. So you don't think you know anyone. Education and advocacy is key for this reason, they could have a seizure one day and you could be the one that can help save them. There's events happening all around the world to help with this too and help with the awareness. One of the things too that people don't always realize is it is illegal to fire someone for having epilepsy. People can get kicked out of schools, lose their jobs because of their epilepsy, and they don't think they can fight it, but it is illegal for someone to fire you because of it, because of any health issue. And with epilepsy being a health issue, it counts. A way to try to fight back with that is talk to your local agencies, and they can help advocate for you to find jobs that are okay or happy to work with people with epilepsy. They can help you find routes to go after these people who fired you because of it, because that's not right, and no one deserves that. In 2017, we did me and my Global USA partners, Me Cough Foundation, we're in Minnesota, and we had the largest epilepsy training session in the world, and so many people joined out and were eager to learn more because they were interested, they wanted to help. Another thing people don't always realize is epilepsy can affect one's mental health. And I'm no means medical or doctor, but from my own experiences, when my seizures changed, I went through depression. I cut myself, I wrote a suicide note, I threw it out eventually, but it takes a toll on you physically, mentally, in every aspect, and your family. And I know it's easier said than done to talk about it, but you have to know that your family and your friends are still with you, are still by your side, and they're there for you to talk to and to help you through it all. And it's, I think where I was going with that. But just, again, like by sharing your story, you're letting people know that these are all normal things to feel, and it's almost validating in a way because you then know that you're not the only one going through this, that others have or are experiencing what you are, and that it's completely normal. By advocating, we can get on the presentation, you'll see some of the things that have happened over the years. By advocating for yourself and epilepsy and others, you can also accomplish very similar things to these, as well as so much more. Every year, there's more and more events happening around the world. There's buildings lighting up to show their support and solidarity with the epilepsy community. And there's so many agencies that are willing to help, so many groups online, in your towns. There's so much support out there, and the beauty of the internet, you can just go on and look for them and you'll find so many. And it's such a great community to be a part of because we all advocate for each other and with each other. Where advocating, you can look around, especially around Purple Day, March 26th, and see how many of us come together to spread awareness for each other. And advocating doesn't have to be hard. It can be as simple as walking into a store or a local business or talking to friends. When you walk into these stores, just asking them, hey, would you mind put a purple poster? Walk into a bakery, would you mind icing Is that cookie purple on this date or this week? And the worst they can say is no. But, and so a lot of times when I get told, when people say they can't do that, they offer another time when they can, or what else can we do? Because they do want to help. And advocating doesn't mean you're every day doing things out there online, tiring yourself out with constant activities. Advocating is simply this: coming together, learning, researching, and talking. It doesn't have to be every day. It can be every few days. It can be every day if you want. Advocacy is wonderful because it can also be very individual, or it can be very collaborative. And a big thing, I guess, to remember when you're advocating is don't feel you have to share what you're not comfortable with. Share only to your comfortability. And I get teary-eyed talking about my depression moments and all that. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to let go and break down, because that's being human. That's natural. It's a part of life. And so share to your comfortability, but don't be afraid to show emotion, because that's can be one of the things that really helps drive you. And with our families and friends, they need to hear this stuff too, because they worry about us. I don't know how many times I've gone out and my parents and my brother are like, what if she has a seizure? Who's going to be around to help? Where is she going to be? What are they doing? How bad could a seizure affect her if it happens? By talking about this, they can let go of that worry, because the more advocacy is out there, the more the public knows. And the more the public knows, the more people that be able to help if that happens. They also know that they have to let us go and be our own person and live our life to the fullest, because, like I said earlier, we can live a normal life like anyone else. Our epilepsy is a health condition that we have and we carry with us as a badge. Because despite our epilepsy, we can accomplish anything, and it doesn't define us. It doesn't. We are not epilepsy. Epilepsy is not us. We are whoever we want to be. Your health doesn't have to define you if you don't want it to. Yeah, I'm not sure how much more time is left. Is there any questions, or if there's anything you guys would like to cover?
Thank you, Cassidy, for a wonderful webinar, like what you're telling to us today, of your emotions, your personal journey through this path of having epilepsy, but also of being an advocate and fighting for it. We do have some questions. The first question we have, we have a comment, and it's from Ina. She says, it's so pleasant to be encouraged to show one's emotions. So that's, I think someone is very inspired by you. She asks, which kinds of occupations are forbidden in Canada and in the USA for people living with epilepsy?
To my knowledge, none. One occupation kind of thing that you might run into is if you don't have a license. So I had to be seizure free for 2 years before I get my license. So therefore I can't do jobs that involve driving, but I could do other aspects of that job. I could, if you want to do delivery, you could be the one that runs the packages to and from the truck to the house while your coworker drives. It is illegal to discriminate someone with and from a job because of their health issue. And so like 2 years also isn't for the driver's license, isn't for everyone. I have people who it's a certain amount of months, certain amount of weeks. It's very dependent. But yeah, it's illegal to discriminate against someone for their health when getting a job or to fire them. So to my knowledge, there isn't really any barriers, or hopefully there shouldn't be.
Perfect. What advice would you give to someone with epilepsy who wants to disclose the diagnosis? How to disclose it?
Well, if you're nervous to disclose it, you can get your local agency, like if it's to like your peers, your local agency could come in, do a presentation, and see how your peers react to the presentation. In my case, my friends asked if the presenter knew anyone who had epilepsy. She listed a few that were open with it. I took my parents aside and said, "You can tell them I have epilepsy." Seeing their interest gave me the courage to speak out. If you don't want to go that route, you could, again, disclose what you're comfortable with. You could tell them, even just try talking about epilepsy with your peers first, and like if they ask why you're talking about, be like, "Oh, it's a really cool thing I learned," and then see how they engage with the conversation. And then you could share an experience you had, and then see how they react to that, and let them know that you have epilepsy. Because they're friends with you before you had epilepsy. They're friends with you while you had epilepsy before they knew. Why should that change your friendship with them? Because you put a label on it instead of it was just it should, yeah. You shouldn't have to feel afraid to speak about it. Share what you're comfortable with. Everyone, you can join support groups and get also advice from them. And know that you have a whole community behind you, with you, beside you, around you. The epilepsy community is huge, and it's loving and it's caring. I can't put enough thanks to this epilepsy community. They've offered me a tremendous support. So try to connect with them, and they hopefully will be able to help you as well to find other ideas. Those are my two best solution ideas. But never be ashamed. You are a strong warrior in this battle, and you have many soldiers beside you.
Great. Could you give us some recommendations regarding how to create advocacy organizations in our own countries? What characteristics are important to include to improve involvement of patients in these?
Okay. Starting your own organization. Social media helps get it further and like to get news out. But the biggest thing is be open, have an open mind. Listen to what people are sharing and telling you. Seek like advice from other organizations that have already established. Kind of like go to some of their events, see how they do things, kind of take that knowledge back with you. Having like a COVID time, so like COVID friendly things, getting Zoom or a type of streaming service so you can have group settings, support groups, or webinars. Partner up with local like doctors even to get like a medical perspective. And if you know anyone that has epilepsy, bring them in, ask them to share some experiences and some advice. Listen to the patients, listen to the people with epilepsy, their family and friends, the ones coming to you. Medical books are great. They're giving you firsthand experience. Same with doctors. The beauty of doctors too is not only do they know the medical side, but having been in that field, they've heard a bunch of stories from people that they will most likely help be able to share. Yeah, just open-mindedness really, and don't give up. Reach out. If someone's when you're diagnosed with epilepsy, the first call to the organization is always the hardest, because that's when you, I guess, really accept that you have it and start to cope with it. So if someone's hesitant to reach out, just keep sending them like email reminders of like newsletters, so like they know that even though they aren't ready to talk about it, you're still there with them and for them. Really listen, and if they ask for help, try to offer them. You're like, oh, if you try to offer them ideas or support. If you're not sure of any ideas of what to offer them, tell them, I'm not sure right now, but let me look into it and I can get back to you. So you're helping advocate with them and for them. Always suggest to talk, like, if they're asking you about a medical thing, you can offer solutions, but ultimately refer them back to the neurologist, because everyone with epilepsy, as unique and similar as we are to each other, what may help someone may not help another. So that's why the doctors will know them best, and that's why you always refer back to the medical team. And our experiences as individuals are unique, and yeah, it's just really open-minded, really listen, and take everything in.
Now that we are talking about doctors, how can doctors be of help in terms of advocacy?
In terms of what?
Advocacy. Like, how can we support advocacy?
Well, if you know they like podcasts, the doctors could go on the podcast and talk. The doctors can help refer you to organizations, support groups, treatments. They can help you refer you to I know, like, in our neurology office, there have little like booklet pamphlets for informations on it as well that they hand out for free. Really listening to their patients and their families, and work with the local agencies as a team and a connective unit. A lot of the time, no, well, not a lot of the time. Sometimes when there's something new that comes up, or you're experiencing something that's not of like an average, it can make the process longer almost, as they're trying to figure out what it is for you to help you the best they can. And so patience between the doctor and their patient is always key. Just, it can be a long process, but like, if you explain something and they don't really get it, try re-explaining it a different way. Try referring it to something that they might know. Doctors are amazing. They're knowledgeable. So I guess they have so much to offer, and just, yeah, be willing to share your knowledge and experience. Treat the body, the mind, your doctor will know your case, yourself the best, more than a website. So based on what you know of you and what your doctors know of you, if you both keep an open mind and remain and like keep the patience and really stick to it, it can be a really great teamwork.
Perfect. We have another question. From a patient's perspective, What ways are more agreeable to bring information to the general public regarding difficult aspects of epilepsy, such as SUDEP and status epilepticus? For example, flyers, videos, stories of personal experience. What can we bring to the general public that will have more acceptance?
Um, that's a tough one because you also we also consider the fact of like the age range and the severity, and suit up is always like a back burner thought with us. It's always on our mind, but we can't let it stop us from living our lives. Um, Personal experience is an amazing way to share it. Encouraging the public to learn about it, to talk about it. Podcast. I don't know what that word is. Podcast. I've had someone come on talk about their son who had passed from suit up. Videos. Not like of people having seizures necessarily, but like of people talking about it, so you can put a face to the story. Flyers, that could work. Newsletters, things
And
that encourage the public kind of work best. I find they really almost engages them. The more like, yeah, it's like if you like ask a question in your story or like try to engage them with it, then they might be more not susceptible, but like more interested to listen and learn about it.
perfect. How do you think is the best way to educate others who don't understand what epilepsy is?
To those that don't understand what epilepsy is, I kind of go about it the route of kind of medically wise. Like, it's a neurological disorder. It's in the brain. You can share your story. I've shared my story many times, of course. Try like this kind of goes into like trying to refer to something that they might know. So to explain like a seizure, I would say like, oh, so you have like a thunderstorm. The lightning strikes the ground or something in many places. The seizure, the lightning when the lightning strikes, that's kind of like seizure activity. The lightning is the activity, the storm is the seizure. Sometimes they explain it as like light switches, so like a circuit breaker. You turn them all off, and you turn them off and on a bunch, and turn them all off, and they slowly flick back on and start rebooting. Kind of like anything kind of electrical circuit. Electrical is how I explain it. You can offer them medical links, research papers. You can suggest to them to go to agencies. You can. There are videos and podcasts about seizures and about epilepsy that you can refer them to as well.
And what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with depression due to epilepsy?
Talk talk to who you trust, who you feel comfortable with. Whether it's a psychologist, whether it's your parents, your siblings, your friends, your doctors. It's another thing, one of those things that's a lot easier said to talk about than to actually talk about. But you have to, and that people who talk about it, you are so brave, and there's so much courage it takes to talk about it, because there's stigma around depression too. And where it's even less talked about how they kind of coincide. Just really, I encourage you to talk about it. When I talked to my friends about it first, they helped me through it a lot, and then I opened up to some of my doctors and my family, and it's really helpful. It feels so good to talk about it and just let it out instead of keeping it inside. When approaching my friends with the subject or my doctors, more so my peers, I kind of talked about it more so. We got on the topic of depression and all that, and I led into some of the things I was feeling and I was going through. So even bringing up the topic of it and then sharing your story while on the topic of it is a good way to kind of ease into letting people know and talk and sharing. They can reach out to me if they'd like. I'm always I answer all my messages. Might take me some time to get to them sometimes, but I will get to them. So they feel free to reach out to me through my social medias anytime. Also to remember that, like, doctors and medical, to remember that when we tell you what we're feeling, you may have heard from others hundreds of times, but for us, it is our first time. So almost treat it as if it's your first time hearing about it, because to us, when I was going through it, I wasn't aware that epilepsy and depression coincided with each other. So I was like, why is all this happening? Now knowing that, it's refreshing again, because I'm not the only one who went through that. There's others I can relate to and talk to. At the same time, it sucks that so many people go through this. But it's kind of like a double-edged knife. It's great because you can relate to people even more. But it's a terrible thing to go through. And I just hope everyone has support. And if they don't, feel free to use me as your support, because I've been there. Comes and it goes. But we'll have each other. And again, leads into advocacy and why advocating is so important. So people are aware of this and make it okay to talk about.
Can you recommend any films where the matter of epilepsy awareness is highlighted? Are there any films regarding this?
There's a few. I heard Brain on Fire was really good. I've been meaning to see that. Under the Lights is about epilepsy. It's in the film festivals now, I believe. So it's not like yet available to watch, but it will be soon. There was also, man, I have a list of them somewhere. If you go on my Facebook, I'm pretty sure there's an album of like a photo album of like list of movies that are about epilepsy. Feel free to check that out. Brain on Fire and Under the Lights were the top recommended ones. My memory's a bit foggy. I had seizures the other night, so that's why I'm more spacey and stuttery today than usual. I'm not remembering things fully. They're slowly coming back to me, but if you go to the Facebook page, if it's not already posted, I will be posting them tonight, because I love when movies incorporate epilepsy the right way, because it gets the awareness out there even more. And same with books too. books that incorporate it are amazing. And we need more of it.
Okay, we have one last question. Purple Day is happening very soon. What events are happening around the world that you know of, and what can we expect from that day?
Yes. So, the Canadian Epilepsy Association across Canada is lighting up purple. So if you know anywhere else that is lighting up purple in your community or city or town, and you're in Canada, you can go down to this location and film it and stream it, and they'll be putting them all together. There's I'll be doing one I'll be doing our city hall in Halifax. I'll be streaming that, lighting up. McGovern USA Purple Day partners, the Need Coffin Foundation, through their initiative Purple Day Every Day, is doing a virtual event in place of the usual Epcot event we do. And so there's going to be vendors and booths through a Zoom and a website. There'll be lots of resources there you can check out. There's virtual walks in Brazil. There's a virtual event in France. The screen I'm sharing now is landmarks that light up all over the world in support of epilepsy. So there's the CN Tower, Niagara Falls, the Scottish Kelpies, the Sydney Opera House, we just got confirmed, is lighting up again this year. Government buildings, the Christ the Redeemer statue, the Sea Link Bridge in Mumbai. A lot of politicians wear purple, ribbons or ties. There'll be a virtual Purple Day Gala, which we usually do in person, but with COVID safe, we're doing the virtual this year. And these are all to help spread more awareness and essentially take over March 26th and turn that whole day purple. Again, with COVID friendly, please remember you can advocate. You already do by being on here with us, by listening and learning, and I thank you for that. Advocacy can be as easy as just sitting here listening. It can be easy as talking. It doesn't have to be extravagant or hard. Whatever you're comfortable with, just talking and listening is advocacy. If you guys have any ideas for purple events, feel free to let me know and feel free to put them on. Or even just if it's like a virtual paint night or something like that, it'd be amazing. If you guys have any Purple Day events you know that I didn't mention, share them with me and I will share them. I love seeing all the events and everyone decked out in purple in support of this. And yeah.
Great. Thank you, Cassidy, one more time for this webinar that it was very sensitive, very heartfelt. We really appreciate you sharing all these stories and feelings with us. We hope to see everyone soon in our next webinar that will take place next week. We're happy to have any more questions in the chat box that we can reply to later. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing, and thank you everyone for listening and your questions. I love them all. I'm very honored to be a part of this, and I look forward to seeing what else you guys all do.